Hey, want to hear my impression of a bird? Tweet, dang it! Tweet! Alright, so this is Dread Canary's intro to Against the Storm. In this scenario, you've just finished the tutorial, you've unlocked the first couple of basic buildings and the Obsidian Archive to allow you to complete deeds, and you are looking at this. Now, it might be a good idea if you haven't played a lot or don't like losing, to try playing a game on Settler or Veteran, the easier levels, but I've played a lot of this. So I'm going to go ahead and go straight to Viceroy, because honestly, even though you have just started, you do have everything you need to succeed. Now we're going to go ahead and take the caravan that has the most people, because what we'll want early on is people. Beavers are also very nice when you're in the Royal Woodlands because they are great at woodcutting. But more people, very good. Let's go ahead and call this something like Intro to ATS and get going. So first thing you'll want to do is look at your mysteries, right? In this case, we are going to get bonus amber every time we sell goods worth 10 amber. So it's basically 20% increase in amber production, which means markets are going to be important. If we were high enough up to start being able to trade with other settlements, this would be even better. But we're not, so it doesn't matter. There's a debuff. This happens all the time. You can pretty much skip over it. Basically, you're going to have increasing negative malices to your people's resolve for the hostility of the forest. But since it's the same every single game, you don't need to read this one. It's always going to be there. So what do we have here? Hearth's resistance is decreased by a negative 200. Okay. That means that the hearth is going to get corrupted by blight faster. Hailstorm means we need housing or people die. Now this you have to respond to before we hit hostility 2, because dead villagers is a problem. Then we've got blight rot mutation. Production in buildings also generates blight rot during the storm. Okay, no real trouble there. And then eclipse. If we get to hostility 6, now this only matters again if we get to hostility 6. Villagers will take longer breaks. If they don't have double services, that's fine. And then Royal Woodlands, trees just give more wood every time you're in this biome. Okay, so our starting location has eggs, which means a scavenger camp. It has clay deposits, which means a stonecutter's camp. And it has some farm fields, which is very useful. The game didn't used to have that. You could never spawn in with farms, but they've added it in the most recent patch, and that is wonderful. Good rule of thumb is at least 2, but usually 3 wood cutting camps in the early game. You don't necessarily have to staff them all. You should fully staff 2, but not necessarily all 3. We're going to go ahead and go up to this. Now, I like to wait on my blueprints, but it's not a bad idea to look very early. Okay. Now, each species has its own bonus to working the fire. Lizards give bonus resolve, beavers use less wood, humans slow how fast the queen's impatience grows, and harpies, which you have to unlock, let people carry more. I find that harpies are really good when you've got a lot of people, but when you're first starting out, I very much like to use humans just to give me more time with the queen. So we're going to do that, and I have checked the little box that says to cut only marked trees. So if I don't mark trees, they don't cut anything. And I also like to start out by just clearing out some space for me to build buildings near my main storage. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be nearly this precise, but I like to. So we've got that going. Let's go ahead and I'm going to, in my hearth, tell it to only burn wood. Coal and sea marrow and oil are sometimes useful for glade events. So by only burning wood, I am burning the one fuel that I'm going to have access to a lot of. stone cutters. Build yourself a nice scavenger's camp. And let's take a look at our buffs. So, since we already know we have fertile fields, having grain production increase when we produce a lot of grain is really good if the game goes long. Plant fiber per minute is very nice for guaranteeing you'll be able to make cloth. I'm going to go with grain bags. And, you know, we can already do a plantation for berries and plant fiber on that fertile field, or we can get one of two camps. You know, I'm going to get a trapper's camp and hold out for a farm. Okay, now in this one, getting a lumber mill is very efficient for planks, but getting a carpenter gives you slightly less efficiency for planks and the ability to do simple tools. Tools are very important, so I'm going to get the carpenter here. Then for our third item, I'm going to go ahead and grab the rain mill, because in the event I get a farm, I'm going to want to be able to turn the grain into flour. Now you always will need a crude workstation, at least to start. And then get your industry up and running. Let's take our missions. Solve 2 glade events versus sell at least 15 amber worth of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and do the glade events. Solve 2 glade events and make 3 building materials versus selling 15 amber worth of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and take the glade events. And especially since the mill that I got gives us more efficient making of building materials. Okay, really wants me to sell stuff worth amber, and in this case, I think I'm going to go with the trading post. Got it 3 times. The missions that you can get does scale with how much you've unlocked, and we are right out of the tutorial here. Now, I could have these lizards collect the clay, because we have plenty of food for at least the first year, even with the very basic resources you get when you haven't really unlocked much at the Smoldering City. You have enough food for the full first year without doing anything. Alright, so this first year is basically going to be clearing space, getting some basic buildings up, and we will come back in a year. Okay, so it is the start of year 2. As you can see, lizards got pretty unhappy during the storm, but lizards lose resolve very slowly. So I didn't have to do anything to keep them from leaving. They just tanked the full unhappiness from the storm. Nobody left, nobody died, and as you can see, all we've done is made a little bit more space. I did go into the crude workstation and set a limit of 5 planks for this building, because the carpenter needs 5 planks and 2 fabric in order to be built. And once we built it, we're going to move all of our plank production into it, so we're just going to be a little more efficient there. Alright, now I like to take balanced packs of various races, but you can choose however you want. Like if you want to specialize in one or in just 2, you can. In this case, I'm definitely going to get humans, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one. I'm going to swap my lizard over to a human, again because I want to slow the rate at which the queen's impatience grows. And now that I'm in year 2 and I have a couple more people, we are going to pop open a glade. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this right here to make sure they do it instantly. We're also going... Harvesting and planting being slower is kind of rough, but it does give +1 wood production, and that is a lot of wood. The other option, every 2 burnt blight rot, says lowering hostility, is very good if you get it early. Unfortunately, I don't have the infrastructure to take advantage of it yet, but I will soon. Let's go ahead and go with Rooty Ground. Now, the introduction of that extra beaver does mean I can swap a lizard over for beavers. This gear, of course, means 10% chance for double production. So it's quite a big boost to the economy, especially now that we are producing twice as much wood when we cut down trees. Okay. So we are in luck. The dangerous event here is the Hidden Trader Cemetery, and you can do it with any of these resources. This is why I turn off coal burning early on, and in fact I didn't get there quite fast enough because you started out with 20, so I would have been able to do this instantly. But no matter, you can also do it with tree resin. We already have 19 tree resin, and we've got 3 in this woodcutter's camp and none over there. So I can just take 2 lizards and tell them to work this, and we can take it for either amber or reputation, or amber and reputation, which gets us one of the points that we'll need to win, or we can get 5 ancient tablets, free incense when we produce roots, and 30 copper bars, and you need copper bars to make tools. So in this case, I'm going to go with the tools. And the first thing we want to do is deal with the dangerous part of dangerous glades. There's a lot of resources in here that can be picked. There's some farm fields. There's a building that we can rebuild. But at the very least, we do want to deal with the danger so that it doesn't have any negatives. In this case, if we leave it, traders will give us less money for our goods, and the queen gets even more impatient. On the other hand, the forest does get more hostile while we're working the glade, so I'm going to have to boost the resolve by giving the lizards some lighter treatment. Packs of crops, happy lizards. This is more lizards every year, and this is more production from any farm. And this is one of the few times I'm going to go with this, because, well, I do like getting a flat number of bonus people every year, or not. I like getting a flat bonus number of people, like 3 people or 4 people. Getting 2 per year will mean that we'll end up with a massive settlement, which might lead to some food issues, and we might run out of jobs for them. If we get 65 roots, we can get 5 beavers. See, this is not 5 per year, it's just 5 flat beavers, which is very nice. 10 planks and 15 ale is always good, and it's a lot easier to collect food stuff than it is to make packs of goods. Of course, we already need to make packs of crops, and we've got a building for efficient building materials, so being able to do trade goods is the only real issue here. Let's go ahead and take this. I don't normally, but we're only 1 building away from being able to do it. Okay, you don't need to make any more planks. So we're actually going to fire you. And the reason we're firing him is so that he can go over here and make that. Turn off the lighter treatment because the beavers are getting pretty unhappy. There we go. And now all of my plank production can be done in this building. Oh, we can do luxury goods here. Great. So what we're going to need is, I'm going to set a cap of 20 tools. I'm going to set a cap of 50 planks, and I'm just going to put a lizard in there. And the reason I'm putting caps is to make sure that we have wood for burning, keeping the fire lit, and for anything else that we might need basic wood for example, basic shelters. Which I didn't make in the first year, but we are going to need pretty soon. Because all villagers get a slight resolve bonus from having basic housing. They get more if you can unlock specialized race-specific housing, but for now, just basic housing is all we've got access to. As you can see, our scavenger's camp has run dry, so we are going to just move it out of the way, get the lizards out of there, and have them start collecting this clay. Of course, turn the favoring of the lizards back on before they leave us. We've got 20 seconds left to go, which should be enough time to not lose any beavers. Alright, so the rest of this year is going to be getting the loot from this cemetery, building a few more buildings, and mostly just building up our economy. So I will see you in year 3. Alright, so we are in year 3. Now, a couple of things we did here is, for one thing, I took one lizard out of chopping wood during the storm. And what that did was, during the storm, it lowered the hostility of the forest just enough to keep people relatively happy. We also finished building our blight post, queued up a couple of basic shelters, and set up some farm fields to be plowed, I guess, over here. And now that we are back into year 3, it's time for me to pick another pack of people. Now we've got a lot of beavers, we have a lot of lizards. I'm going to go with this human and beaver mix. Once again, this means throw a beaver in there for extra efficiency. And for our third, let's gain the mushroom increase. I don't know if it'll matter, but getting amber for trade goods doesn't seem all that useful. So we're going to go ahead and get the fungal guide. And the cemetery counted as a glade event. Another thing that counts as a glade event is this provisioner here. Now, the provisioner is very good once you've unlocked trade routes, once you've unlocked the ability to trade with other towns, because packs of provisions are the basis of trade. But we haven't progressed high enough up the tech tree to do that yet. So packs of provisions aren't that great. I've already got a building. I haven't made one, but I have the blueprints for building that'll make flour at 3-star efficiency instead of 2. So all that the provisioner really does here is give me flour. I'm sorry, not flour, barrels. And while barrels are useful, they do require you to have a consistent source of either spark dew or copper, neither of which I've got. So we are going to go with salvaging this thing, which requires planks and fabric. And we have been making our planks into simple tools, so let's add a couple more guys in there. And it's always useful to have a couple of extra unassigned people who are going to be your builders. People who are assigned to specific camps can't build anything. Make a nice rain mill around the back here. Now I've also queued up some fences. And the reason I'm queuing these up is these are comfort items, which villagers like. And once you have 8 villagers who are housed, doesn't have to be great housing, just any housing, and 4 comfort buildings, we get a global +2 resolve. So my people are going to be a bit happier now. The other thing I want to do is I want to put a lizard in this blight post. It's a fire building, so the lizard is going to be very happy to work it. We're going to set a cap of purging fire of 20, just to make sure I have some wood in reserve. I'll raise that later. So right now I've got one lizard who's going to create purging fire with which to fight the blight that will accumulate on our buildings. And as soon as we have some more planks, how are we coming on those planks? We're going okay. Let's take a look at our orders. Sell 45 worth of amber, or have 3 ancient tablets. And this is going to give us a lot of food that'll make people happy, whereas this will give us a couple of people, some tools, and traders will arrive quicker. Now remember how I took the resources from that cemetery? Well, it does mean I already have 5 ancient tablets, so we can take this and turn it in immediately. Open 3 caches will require tools. Sell stuff for 35 amber and have 30 spark dew. We could certainly do this, but I'm going to go with the open caches because I want to open them anyway. And because we are making tools, we'll be able to do that relatively soon. Alright, so that gives us all of the planks that we need. Unless I miscounted. Stonecutter's camp has no deposits nearby. That's okay. We'll just move them up here and get the more clay that's there. I told these guys to build a cap of 10 of each of these. We've got more than enough bricks, and we don't have the plant fiber needed to make any more cloth. So let's go ahead and fire them. Make ourselves a couple of houses. And pick our next blueprint. So, in this case, we want the Weaver. And I already kind of explained why I don't want a Provisioner. It's why I didn't rebuild the Provisioner. And coats are good for humans and beavers once you've got a solid amount of cloth, which I don't have. Whereas the Weaver will let us efficiently make cloth. It lets us make training gear, which lizards might like if we get a building that lets them practice their brawling. And getting efficient building materials is always good, especially once you have unlocked the racial specific housing, which uses more advanced building materials. But it does mean we no longer make fabric, we only use the crude workstation to make bricks. And we should also... Okay, we've got one of these, we've got one of these, we've got that. That's all solid. I do need to make a trading post at some point, so let's go ahead and make that now. Now you can, of course, spread out your villagers. They don't have to be this tight. I like to have things close to my central storage so that they have short trips. And actually my houses are, which houses can be anywhere within this radius of the hearth, they don't have to be this tightly packed either. Now these guys are idle because we don't quite have enough planks for some reason. Because all of our planks are getting turned into tools. Okay, well, in that case, there's no reason to have them there. Let's pull them out. And you know, I think we should actually start using this third lumber camp that I built way back in the beginning. We're going to toss a couple of humans in here. And go that way. Now, as you can see, the Queen's getting very impatient because I haven't done much about her demands. And this time we'll go all the way through the storm. So you'll see everyone's resolve kind of drops. But it's not that far negative, it's just -2. And that is because they all have some basic housing, plus we have +2 from the hearth. So they don't mind the storm that badly. And we got enough housing up that nobody's going to die from the hail. This woodcutter's camp has nothing that it can chop down, so we should probably give it something to chop down, yeah? Unfortunately, I didn't leave myself a lot of space, so let's make some. We're just going to go back that way. And of course, I could lower hostility by either firing some of my woodcutters, or by just burning more fuel in the hearth. But I don't think I need to do that. See, what I'm going to do is just favor the beavers. And lizards lose resolve so slowly that it's going to get all the way through without a single lizard getting into the red. Turn that off. And we check this out. These guys come with some tools and some mushrooms. Let's go ahead and take that. Every 5 villagers with education, which is just going to be beavers, and only if we get the infrastructure up to resolve that, would increase our global production speed, or hostility is reduced by 15 points every time I sell goods worth 25 amber. And I have to sell some goods worth amber anyway, so this just lets us turn a merchant into a way of reducing hostility. That's what I'm going to do. Sahilda has shown up, so we can sell her goods. And as you can see, we've got a lot of wood. I do want to keep at least 20 resin in case we get a dangerous glade that requires the use of that. Ancient tablets sell for quite a lot. We've got a ton of wood. I'm going to go ahead and sell 376 just because I like round numbers, leaving me with 250. We're not selling parts because you need those to make camps and storage facilities. We're not going to sell tools because I'm going to need those to open caches. But we will sell this for as much amber as she's willing to give us. Ooh, 38.75. Okay. And then we're going to round it out with just, I don't know, a couple of roots maybe? 39. Not quite. One root. That should be good enough. And now that we've got our trading post order in, we can turn that in. Get ourselves another blueprint so we can pick up that farm that I've been waiting on. And then I'm going to go back to Sahilda and I'm going to get the woodcutting movement speed. Because moving faster on my main source of fuel is huge. At this point, our woodcutters have cut out enough space that I can move it to that side. Put a small farm here. And where do we have these? Can be beavers. Again, I'm doing that for the sweet 10% chance of bonus production. We also want to make a small farm here. Make some farm fields. And since this year is mostly going to be about consolidation and cleaning up all the resources I've already unlocked, I will go ahead and see you at the start of year 5. Alright, so it's the start of year 5, and what we did was we salvaged that provisioner. We cleared out some more space. We swapped the lizards in the carpenter over for beavers so we could get a chance for bonus production on planks and tools. And in fact put more lizards in the blight post and raised our cap to 50, which has been more than enough in basically every game I've played of this to cover just about anything I might need it to. We had some resolve issues, so I did have to fire a bunch of woodcutters to lower the hostility of the forest, at least for the storm. And that means that we are now in need of beavers to do more wood cutting. So we're going to hire them back. We got 3 there. We're going to want 3 over here. And now we are going to blaze our way into another glade over here. Excuse me. Got to make sure I'm not on top of a tree. And we're going to get into this glade here while we're at it. Now you'll notice I didn't open any basic glades while doing so. You certainly can. They add a little bit of hostility to the forest, and they do give some resources, but generally I find it better to just stick to the dangerous glades, unless I'm trying for a deed that's like win a game after opening 40 glades. Okay, so if we can get ale, we can get a plus 10% chance for double yields for both humans and beavers, or we can get a free villager every time we discover a new glade. Now, I think I'm doing fine on villagers, so I'm going to go with well-rested workers. I should also point out, we built a second farm and staffed both farms with humans, and during the storm, those humans prepped these fields, so now they have chances for bonus yields as well, on top of the 10% chance just for being worked by humans. Let's go ahead and turn in this order, giving us some tools, some people, and some planks. Now that we have planks, I'm going to put a human. Notice we've got the farm symbol for the rain mill, so 10% chance for double yields. And we're going to set them on making packs of building materials. We need 3 for this, we need 10 for this, and then we need 15 for this. So we're going to set them at 28 building materials made out of planks. We're going to say that this is the highest priority. We are not going to make scrolls, but we are going to say that after you've done that, you should make flour, and you should make up to 100 flour. 100 flour should be more than enough for just about any purpose at all. So now if I've done my math right, we have 12 beavers total, and 9 of them are wood cutting, 3 of them are doing carpentry, so all of my beavers are getting like basically my wood economy is just beavers. Pick a blueprint. Brickyard. That's our third and final building needed. Alternately, the cookhouse would let us make biscuits. I'm going to go ahead and get the brickyard, just because I like having efficient building materials across the board. There, looks good. Now, the reason these guys stopped is because I have more than 50 planks, and we have 20 tools. I'm going to actually turn off the limit on tools, because you can always use more tools, and we're going to leave planks on. We found a fishman cave, which can be worked with tools or resin. And if you can work it with resin, you should. Resin's cheap. It grows on trees. So we are going to go ahead and do that. And for this, honestly, I think I want the bricks. While working it, it'll spawn fishman totems. That's okay. Go ahead and send a couple of lizards to work it. Now, let's go ahead and send this to the Citadel. I mean, building materials are nice, but we're going to send it to the Citadel. And now that there is some plant fiber that we can harvest, we're going to build a harvester's camp up here. And once this stonecutter is done getting that clay, we can send him here to collect the sea marrow. And of course, the scavenger's camp can be used to get these roots. I've got 2 farms. So, while there is a farm field here, unless I get another blueprint that lets me use farm fields, I'm not going to worry about this farm field for quite a while. I don't think I'm going to need it. And of course, we've got another glade that should be popped open pretty soon here. And for this one, I will actually fire some woodcutters just to be able to work whatever the issue is right away. Meanwhile, I should probably go deal with that fishman totem. The +1 wood production, coupled with the 10% chance for bonus yields, has given us so much fuel. We have a ton of wood. So missing out on some wood production won't be a problem. As you can see, we've got a lot of buildings in here we'll be able to rebuild. And the dangerous thing is the Forsaken Crypt, which needs tools. Okay. We could get 30 crystallized dew, which can be used to make tools, plus 5 more ancient tablets that sell for a lot. Incense when we produce roots, which we are now harvesting. And incense is used for religion, which both humans and lizards like. So in this case, this is actually really good. We get -6 resolve for every 10 amber in storage, but we only have 4 amber, so that's not really a downside. Let's just go ahead and work this immediately. Fishman totem has appeared. We knew it would, though. And you know, because of how much hostility we have right now... Oh, we actually lowered it by taking people off woodcutting. Never mind, I was going to say this is a good time to start burning some extra fuel. Make sure we hit investigate there. But we're doing alright. Send a lizard up here to work that. And Jorg has appeared. Hello, Jorg. Bakery. Yes, we have a consistent source of flour now, so the bakery is huge. We definitely want to get that. So we're going to find out how to get 18. We have quite a few planks. We have a lot of clay. Let's go ahead and sell them. Well, we're using the planks to make packs of building materials, which we need for various quests. This is where you have to start balancing things. We need packs of provisions for one of the quests, too. So, I don't have any way of converting copper into copper bars at this point. Let's sell him all my copper. Let's sell him 26 planks. And we'll say 50 clay, not quite enough. All of my bricks. Can I get away with a little less clay? I can. That looks pretty good. So we trade that. We buy this. And of course, that... where is it? Here we go. So we have... Oh, that's how much amber we've gotten. There it is. we have lowered the hostility of the forest by 30. And once we have dealt with the Fishman totem up here, that's going to lower the hostility even further. Meanwhile, our one human working on getting us some building materials is going quite nicely. Lizard result is low, and that's because of all the Fishman totems that keep popping up while we work this Glade event. That's okay though, we can now burn a little bit of wood. And we're just going to keep balancing that while we work our 2 Glade events. And as soon as we can, we're going to turn in a couple of quests. So I think we'll go ahead and pause my recording again, and I'll see you in about 2 years. Alright, so it's the start of year 7. Along the way, we have salvaged a cache that was over here. We bought the plantation blueprint from Sahilda, as well as the furniture perk, which gives people slightly more happiness when they have housing based on how advanced your hubs are. And we also rebuilt the kiln, salvaged the cooperage, and are rebuilding the manufactory as of now. So we are expanding our economy, what we can build, getting, as you can see, more materials built up so we can turn in rations for the Citadel, leaving us just this packs of trade goods, building materials, and packs of crops quest left here. We need to open up one more cache, which we have the tools for. And I have been firing a lot of my woodcutters every storm just to lower the hostility of the forest and cut down on how much excess wood I have to burn in order to keep my people from leaving. Now, one benefit to the kiln is that we can turn wood into half as much coal, but coal burns 4 times as long. So we are definitely going to want to get some lizards in here. Also, since we have a quest that requires us to have 18 beavers, we will want to get a beaver if possible, just to get one more order completed. Let's go ahead and have every burn cyst remove additional corruption so that we can go ahead and keep the corruption from hitting the maximum and removing several of my villagers. Now, we already have an efficient way to make cloth with the weaver, so we don't need the leather worker. We already have a pretty efficient way to make planks in the carpenter, so we don't need the lumber mill. We don't have a way to make jerky, but we also don't have a source of meat, so the smokehouse doesn't really do much for us. That said, I think out of all of these, I most want the smokehouse. Now, we are making packs of trade goods out of the weaver using our flour, but now that we have basically no flour left and we still need 15 packs, let's go ahead and add the ability to do it out of water skins and barrels as well. There's our last beaver that we needed. And now that we have 18 beavers, we've got a beaver majority. So 30 seconds. Lets us turn in that. So as you can see, in the early years, it's quite common for the queen to get very impatient before you start turning things around and actually gaining reputation. Now, you'll also see that we have built ourselves a nice little start of a second community over here, and then pretty rapidly put down some benches and some housing to get that up to tier 2. So we can get that +2 global resolve again. Throw down enough housing to make sure I don't have to worry about it for at least another year. And we'll go ahead and put some bushes back here. Bushes don't do anything when you're first out of the tutorial, but hubs eventually get 3 levels that they can be upgraded to. The first one just needing 4 comforting items. The second one needs 8 comforting items and 4 decorative. And then we double both of those to 16 and 8 and add in 4 harmony buildings to get to the 3rd tier. And upgrading hubs is very worthwhile. Generally, you need 20 people living around a hub to get there, which is why I kind of instinctually build enough housing for 24 people or a little bit more, just to make sure that we're there even if someone leaves, even though I have not unlocked those higher levels. We do need to go ahead and send some humans over here to raid this cache, which at this point I think we want to focus on getting some reputation, just to get that out of the way. It'll finish this quest, and then once these guys finish packing up their trade goods, I think one more pack of trade goods will do it. Then we will be all set with that order, and that's going to complete all of our orders. And from there on out, it's just a question of making people happy, and possibly turning in threats from the forest for reputation. Now again, we are just out of the tutorial on this. I have not gone anywhere up the tree, and all we're doing is focusing on getting a solid economic base, growing our town, and efficiently moving through the space here. Okay, so let's go ahead, turn off packs of trade goods, turn in this order, giving us another blueprint. This time I'm going to take the cookhouse, which will add skewers to the list of things we can do. Now the reason I only said skewers is because also during that break we unlocked a couple of buildings. We've got access to a bakery, and we built a storage building over here. So now we've got access to a bakery. Let's go ahead and fill in this path a little bit. Now we've got access to a brewery. And we have access to a tavern. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and move this flower bed over here, because we're going to want a road to the brewery. Now, you don't need a road to the brewery for whatever reason. Like, villagers can access service buildings even if you can't get to the door. But I like to have roads where it would make sense for roads to be, even if strictly speaking I don't have to make them. Let's also go ahead and make ourselves a nice cookhouse. There, looks nice to me. And we have this little one slot, or this little 2x2 slot over here, which feels like I like to fill in 2x2 slots with something that makes sense. So in this case, let's just put another house in that area. We've opened up 3 caches, so we can turn that in, getting our final order. And now it's just a question of getting 3 more points through a combination of reputation and villager resolve. And in this case, we now get to pick one of our 3 races to make specialized housing for, which will give them another +3 resolve from their housing. We mostly have beavers, but I'm actually going to go with lizards because their base happiness is much lower than the other ones. So we need 7 lizard houses, so we're going to delete this. Now, shelters house 3 people naturally, and it doesn't matter what species they are. But the racial-specific housing only does 2. So building 4 of those is going to be enough for 8 of my 13 beavers. But at the same time, we're going to delete this and this. I'm going to replace that with lizard housing as well. Since we bought a plantation blueprint, I'm opening up this area just so we can get a plantation down. And we are very close to winning. So what I'm going to do here for the storm is we are going to fire all of my woodcutters. Notice how that lowers the hostility of the forest, thus lowering the power of the happiness debuff. So now we're down to hostility 4, and it's not enough for my people to be happy, but it's decent. And we are going to get a little more housing here to make our lizards go up, but that's still not going to be enough. A while back, I swapped my main fuel to sea marrow. Now, sea marrow can be burned for faster glade event working speed, and that's very nice. But in this case, I did it because it's an efficient fuel source, and that let me just stockpile wood, so that when we got to, say, a storm like this, I could lower the hostility of the forest significantly just by burning excess wood. Apparently not enough, though, because lizards are going to be so unhappy that we're going to lose our first villager. Which, you know, just hurts my score. And I don't like having them leave. But scores doesn't do anything as far as the roguelite nature of the game goes. Score is just kind of a bonus that you get. So we favored our beavers to make them not leave. We're going to favor our humans next. We're going to lose another lizard. But I should be able to keep bouncing the resolve bonuses back and forth between these. There we go. Let's go ahead and make fuel recipes faster. And the reason I want to do that, get out, is that now we are going to start converting our wood into coal. This has a couple of effects. For one thing, coal is more efficient. For another thing, lizards like working in a coal-producing building because it's hot in there. So that's going to help with our lizard resolve issue. And let's go ahead and rehire our woodcutters. Now, I'm not confident that we've got the resources to deal a forbidden glade. A lot of those require spark dew, which I don't have the building for yet. I just don't have the ability to make it. So we're going to ignore that part. But we will, however, put 3 humans in this tavern, which gives us a +3 global resolve bonus. And if we have ale or training gear, it'll let us brawl. Very nice. Put some humans in there. Let's make this beavers. This should not be building packs of building materials for any reason. Switching solely to flour. And we're also going to make ale and pickled goods. Just ale. Over here, and humans like working in brewery buildings. So now, if we look through our town, let's go ahead and put some humans in here. Fire these lizards. We don't need packs of crops for anything. And by clicking on just an icon, it shows you all of the possible jobs in your village, as well as who is working them. Now, lizards do like working in the bakery. Let's tell them that they can make biscuits and pie out of anything they want to, as long as we have it. And then there comes Zorg. Hello, Zorg. Bonus ale production, planting, and harvesting being faster. Now, with all the farms that I have, these are actually useful. Let's go ahead and get all of them. Plus, I'm having food issues now. So let's get some food, shall we? We'll get a bunch of flour, which will let us make more advanced food. And we'll get that, and we'll get that, and jerky, because jerky will make my people happier as well. And we are willing to sell all of these packs of stuff that I can't use for anything else, as well as... No, I think that's going to be enough. Maybe a couple of planks. Yes, and remember we have the perk that is letting us... There we go. That is lowering the hostility every time we sell goods. So now we have lowered the hostility of the forest by 105 just from selling stuff. That's a very nice perk to have. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do that. And I think we should probably think about getting ourselves a third hearth. That looks good to me. Yes. And then we're going to move this harvester's camp up here. Give it another lizard. Make a nice road around it. That all looks solid. Let's go ahead and open our way into this glade, though. Just get that nice and going. Put a lizard on the hearth here. Now, the main bonus that I'm getting, the excess time, that only matters for the ancient hearth. Lizards like working with fire, so it's best to put lizards on any other hearths you get, because it'll just make them happy. It'll just make them happy, and that is very good. So now we're going to make ourselves some more lizard housing up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this dangerous glade, we have found a living matter. Now, living matter does consume food, which is very annoying, and there's not really an option to turn it in for reputation points, but in this case, it'll make planting faster, it'll give us some amber, and it'll give us some crystallized dew with which to make tools. So let's go work that. And look at that, we finally found something that'll produce meat. Now, lizards have a 10% bonus chance of, or a 10% chance of bonus productions when working with meat. So, swap this over some beavers. Make that lizards. There we go. Trapper's Camp can, of course, also get eggs. And then there's more sea marrow for us to get with the Stonecutter's Camp once this set runs out. We're having wood supply chain issues, but I think we're okay, because a lot of our wood supply chain issues come from the fact that we're turning our wood into coal. Brickyard. Why aren't we making bricks? Because we have... Why aren't we making bricks? We don't have clay? I didn't give you permission to use stone. Now, you can click these on and off, and then if you hold down Shift, you can change the priority to say, hey, I want to use this first, and then go to this. But in this case, I'll just leave them both on and make them equally weighted, because I don't have anything else I want to use that pottery for. We don't want to make the training gear in this location, because we have a manufactory that makes it more efficiently. That said, I don't want to use anything that I can use to make training gear, to actually make training gear at the moment. I want bricks. A lizard harvester left. Yes, that's who left us during the storm. Right. We are low on food, largely because the living matter is eating it, which is annoying, but not catastrophic. Alright, so at this point I think our village is pretty stable, and we'll be right back in a couple more years for final check-in when I'm about to win. See you soon! Alright, so we are on year 11, and we've gotten here by firing our woodcutters every single storm. Since we are getting that +1 production, it hasn't been a problem. We've had plenty of wood. And we've been converting it to coal, which means that if I need to lower the hostility, we can just by burning a lot of coal and a lot of wood. You'll notice that we added a 4th woodcutter's camp. We dug in here, we solved a dangerous glade event for reputation, and we dug into the forbidden glade here, and we're able to solve that dangerous glade for reputation as well using tools. Our lizards are quite happy, because lizards can get very happy off of food, and we've been buying jerky, and we've been making skewers and pie. The bakery is going the cookhouse is going. Everything is going nicely, and we've been buying food from the traders, which, of course, since we're spending money, is lowering the hostility of the forest to make our people even happier. I could probably win just by lowering the hostility and letting them coast on happiness, but I just want to point out that we can win by opening up one more glade. We've got living matter, which I can't turn in for anything, so it's not going to work the way I wanted it to, but it will still work. What we're just going to do is do that, and then we will turn off this so that the only thing we're normally burning is sea marrow, and we're going to just lower the hostility of the forest as far as we can, and that is going to raise lizard happiness above a blue bar. Now, I should point out that when you get reputation from resolve, it also increases the amount of resolve that species has to have in order for you to gain reputation from it. So, they get used to certain levels of happiness, and then you don't get as much later from the same amount of happiness. You have to give them more. So it does escalate, but we can favor them in this case. We're very close to winning. And one great way to raise their happiness is to provide services, either for things like ale or training gear. Now, I don't have the stuff to make training gear. I've been buying pottery from traders as they come through and using that with our flour to make ale, which is making our beavers and our humans relatively happy. And there we go. And of course, since I did all of that on Viceroy, first game out of the tutorial, we unlock quite a few things. Get a bunch of deeds, and we get our score. Now again, remember, score is just bragging rights. It does not change anything about what rewards you get as you go up the chain, except I'm kind of lying. After you've done a few cycles, you start seeing AI-controlled settlements that'll compete with you, and whoever has the highest score gets the most resources for free from the Queen when you start a new cycle. But it's not enough that you need to build a strategy around it. Just winning individual towns will get you there, and if you lose a town, you do still get some resources, though not nearly as many. So do your best to win, and we will see you out there battling the storm. I've been the Dread Canary, and you are welcome to catch me streaming this live on Friday nights or on Monday nights over on twitch.tv/dreadcanary. Friday nights it's at 9:30, and on Monday nights it's at 8 p.m. And we go until I finished one town. I'm actually doing an Iron Man run while I play on harder and harder difficulties every time I solve 2 villages, and we're slowly working our way up the tech tree that way. So come check it out, ask questions, meme with me, #housing for beavers, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day.